with Saline Schools for 40 years, and I'd like to make a few comments about the changes that I've seen and experienced during those 4 decades. So it starts like this. When I came here in 1977, Jimmy Carter was president. Those were the days, right? Lower Road was a 1-lane dirt road, and the Commons, where we're now sitting, was in the middle of a cornfield. In 1977, there were no AP classes, no swimming pools, and no computers. And no one had heard of a Liberty, or a Harvest, or a Pleasant Ridge. And in 1977, Jack Crabtree was a relatively new teacher and coach here at Saline. Howard Hintz was winding down his tenure as superintendent. And Paul Tebow was trying to keep guys like David Graft in line. And a fellow named Clem Corona was patrolling the hallways of Saline High School. Obviously, much has changed during these past 40 years. Saline has grown from a mostly rural agricultural community to a much more suburban community, with our own box stores and even a movie theater now. And likewise, the school district has changed also. It's moved from a quiet rural district where Tractor Day once rivaled homecoming, and it's moved to a mega district with high-powered academics and high-powered extracurriculars. During the past 40 years, it's been my distinct pleasure to see and live through those many changes. It's been rewarding to see the district grow and evolve into one of the most highly regarded school systems in the state of Michigan. When I first set foot in the old high school in the fall of 1977, I was proud to be here, and I feel that same pride now some 40 years later. You know, as the years have gone by, it's always been amusing to see just where your former students end up and what kind of accomplishments they might have. In my case, I happen to have taught some of the leaders of our present school system. Yep, it's this way. It's somewhat alarming to realize that your boss is the same kid that sat in the back of your freshman English class. That would be Scott Brady. I would also include in that group people like Kurt Ellis and David Raft. So maybe they didn't know the difference between an adjective and an adverb. I'm sure they didn't. And maybe they didn't know the difference between a comma and a coma. But somehow they survived, and in fact they thrived, and they are now leading our district into the future. One other thing, I'd like to recognize some people who are with me here tonight. They represent to me those people who helped me get through the 40 years here at Saline. First, I'd like to recognize Tom and Kathy McAuliffe. I taught and coached 2 of their daughters, and the McAuliffes represent to me the hundreds of parents whose children I worked with over the years. The support and friendship that came from parents like the McAuliffes made this job, made this life, a worthwhile and fulfilling endeavor. Also with me tonight, right over here, are Allie Fox and her sister Carrie Craig. It was my pleasure to teach and coach both Allie and Carrie, and they represent to me the many, many students I worked with here at Saline. They also represent the work ethic, the drive to succeed, and the character that I cherished in my students and athletes. Traits like these made going to work each day something really you wanted to do rather than something you had to do. And whether it was in the classroom or on the cross-country course, I always felt lucky to spend time with the young people I taught and coached. And they're also his family. Who speaks tonight is my wife, Mary, many of you know, who was the best Spanish teacher Saline ever had. She wrote that part right there. And also one of my sisters, Stephanie, is here, and her husband, Carmine. And here in spirit are my 3 kids. They have different reasons for not being around. Travis is in Portland, Oregon. He's taking care of our latest grandchild who was born 3 weeks ago yesterday. And my other son, Ryan, many of you know, lives in Prague in the Czech Republic. Kind of a long transport for him to be here. And our daughter, Megan, has, I think, the best reason for not being here. She's about 9.5 months pregnant right now. And is waiting to give birth any day, any minute, really. So if you see Mary quickly leave here, you'll know why. Anyone who's in education knows a couple things. One, it's a lot of work. And number 2, there's often not a lot of recognition. And that's where family comes in. They pick you up when you're down, they celebrate your successes, and it will help to calm you down when you're ready to perhaps do great bodily harm to 2 or 3 kids in one of your classes. Parents, students, family, these are the bedrock of education. So, to wrap this up, from day one here at Saline, I felt lucky to be here. Lucky to be in a community, in a school where education mattered, where teachers and coaches were valued, and where expectations were always high. And when I really think about it, which I try to now and then, it comes down to this. It's real simple, it's 5 words. I loved what I did. How can, you're just lucky. You're lucky your vocation is your passion is your vocation. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for this honor.